always ask questions, figure that out. Don't be afraid to ask the question that you need to ask so you can understand, one, your product, and two, like the industry itself. That stuff's going to take you so far.
Everybody, it's Morgan J. Ingram here, host of the SDR Chronicles, bringing you motivational advice, tips and tactics for your sales development journey, your sales journey, and also your entrepreneurial journey, as I believe that sales development is the mantra and vocal point of your career and also of your life, because you use sales development every single day. And today I have Ari Zucker with me, SDR at level 1, and he's going to tell us today about the fundamentals you need to have as an SDR and what you need to focus on every single day. So I'm super excited about this topic because we've never on this show or on this podcast talked about the fundamentals, which doesn't really make any sense. You got to understand the fundamentals. So Ari, tell them a little bit more about yourself and why you're excited about this topic today.
Yeah. So one quick thing, level 11, not level 1, but
let's say level 1. Why I said level 1? Level 11. Thinking like playing a video game or something.
Yeah, so level 11, SDR there, been my first full-time gig. So just graduated school in the spring, hopped over here, been selling for about 9 or 10 months. And I'm really excited to chat with you today, man.
Awesome, man. So first off, let's dive right into it. What are the SDR fundamentals for you? What does that mean?
Yeah, so when I think about like the SDR fundamentals, I think it boils down to a few different things. So the first is, what's the value of your product? So when I say that, it's, not what does it do, but what problem are you solving? So when you're talking to someone, either it's a prospect or that's, an inbound lead or a cold call, what problem are you going to solve for that person? Whether they're a sales manager, whether they're sales operations, sales enablement, like how do you make their job better? And how can you quickly explain that to someone? And I think that sets apart an SDR from being like, that's where you're really going to be good at your job.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And how do you get yourself to do that every single day? Like the fundamentals, like, do I need to make X amount of phone calls every single day? Do I need to talk to my manager and get feedback every single day? Like, what is it for you that has helped you gain those fundamentals and get a good grasp?
Yeah, great question. So when I think about that, I say, okay, who am I talking to every day? I'm talking to sales managers, people in sales operations, VPs of sales. So what are they doing every day? What are they focused on? How can I continue to stay current as far as what they're focused on, what they care about, and how can I continue to draw, lines and links to what we do and how I can help them? So that's reading blogs every day, figuring out, okay, what's hot right now? What's going on? What are they thinking about? What are the problems they're facing in their job every day? And how can I continue, again, to draw those links and lines between what we're doing and what they're focused on?
And how do you go about that? Is it information you're getting from your managers? Are you finding that information? Like, what's the kind of the cadence that you have for that?
Yeah. So for me, I think a lot of it is like listening to a lot of podcasts, like yours every day, right? Talking to, figuring out, okay, what are the blogs that people are reading? How can I stay current on that information? A lot of it's talking to other, my managers too, like, what are we facing as a company? Like, what are our concerns? What are our problems? And then figuring out, okay, companies who are in this region, who are doing this thing, maybe they have this concern, and then talking to prospects about it, testing it out, getting on cold calls, writing emails, figuring out what's working, stuff like that, figuring out, okay, let's make calls today about this. Let's position our product this way. Let's see if I can get any traction here. If I don't, okay, now I know. Let's try it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I think that's important because you're continuously developing your own skill set and also understanding who you're reaching out to. Because I think at the end of the day, if you know who you're reaching out to and you can do that with a clear focus and you're locked in, you're going to get better results in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And so going into like the next question, what do you believe is the most important thing for an SDR to grasp as they're in their role?
Yeah. So I think it's a few different things. So the one thing for sure is you got to understand that problem you're solving. Because at the end of the day, like, that's what buyers care about, right? And even before they know they're buyers, like, everyone thinks their sales team is great. Everyone thinks that their team is chugging, or they, some people don't, but most people that I talk to anyways are like, my team is great. We're hitting numbers. We're doing great. Like, why do I want to talk to you?
Yeah.
It's like, sure, that makes sense to me. Do you have this problem? A lot of times they say, yeah, that's kind of a bottleneck for me in my day. That's a problem I'm having. It's a concern my reps are having. I can solve that for you. Well, that's awesome. But if I just said my product does this, they'd be like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is a good point. So if you're starting off And as an SDR and you're trying to learn those fundamentals, like what is more important? Figuring out what your solution does at the highest level, or learning how to do those cold calls and those cold emails?
I think that's a great question. Let's see here. I might say it's the second one first. So I think learning how to do your job will come with time, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to make, tons of calls and send tons of emails every day. You're going to get that just automatically by getting in here every day and doing it.
Yeah.
But I think learning how to do that well, that's the part that's the most important.
Right.
I know that for me anyways, like I have things I got to do every day. Like I make this many calls and this many emails, get this many conversations each day. And that's going to happen just by, a numbers game. It's just if I work hard, it's going to happen. But on the other hand, like I can also just send the same template email to 50 people a day.
Yeah, you could.
So I've got to understand, okay, what's going to resonate with someone? What do they care about? What are they focused on each and every day? And how can I draw that line to what I'm doing to what they're doing and interest them enough to take a call?
Yeah, so Ari brings up a great point here, because you're really taking a deeper dive into what the process is. And I see it from like a sports level when I think of fundamentals like basketball, football, hockey, soccer. It doesn't really matter what you play. If you don't understand how to dribble, then you're not going to be able to do the 360 dunk, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, oh, I want to go do this cool prospecting technique. But if you're not making the same calls and doing the same emails every single day, then there's no chance that you're going to be able to do that, what you're talking about.
I think that's a great point because I think this is a kind of a really timely discussion right now.
Yeah.
We're talking about, all these kind of cool tactics you can do. I know video has been that big one recently everyone's talking about.
Right.
Send videos to 100 people a day. But if you're stammering on that email or on that video because you don't know what you're talking about, you're not knowing how to position your product, someone's going to watch your video and say, oh, that guy's trying hard. He's just not very good at his job. He doesn't get it. It's not going to be valuable for anybody.
Right. And where do you see people like missing that point, right? So I feel like you're talking about a lot of fundamentals that people should do, like getting on the phone, getting information, finding the solution. Yeah. What if their manager isn't providing them that insight, or their leadership is not as good? Like, how can they figure out, hey, look, what should I be doing? What if they've just been handing a list and just like, good luck, here are the templates?
Yeah, I mean, that's really tough, right? I know a lot of times as SDRs, you kind of look to your management team as, I'm here to learn how to sell, and you kind of hope to get that guidance. But if you're not getting that guidance, I mean, a lot of it is taking that on yourself. There's tons of free resources on the internet you can look to, right? LinkedIn, just connect with people, ask questions, figure that out on your own. Google, find some really great blogs, find some great podcasts, listen to them on your commutes in and out, that stuff. I mean, you can just learn so much. There are so many people who are so dedicated to sales, and you can learn so much so quickly. Even like 1 or 2 techniques a day will change your life.
They will. So when you're looking for those techniques, where are you learning that from? Are you going, like you said, on podcasts only? Are you reading books? Are you going to blogs? Like, what's your main source for that?
Yeah, so I do a lot of podcasting. So I listen to podcasts on my way to and from work each day, when I work out each day. And then, I do a lot of, blog reading too when I'm, take a 10-minute break or whatever, and I'll go on and subscribe to, HubSpot's a great blog that I like a lot. Sales Hacker's a great one too. So I read those pretty frequently. And I found those to be, 1 or 2 tips a day, and you figure that out, and you figure out what works with your personality, and what you can apply, and then you got some good stuff there.
Yeah. So do you only listen to sales podcasts, or do you try to go outside that?
I'm pretty focused on sales podcasts, but I do listen to a few others as well.
Okay, cool. So you talked about the fundamentals. We talked about cold calling, emailing, getting podcast information, but how do you structure your day? You touched on that a little bit. So what's your schedule every single day? What are the tasks that you're trying to hit metrics wise?
Yeah. So metrics wise, I'm focused on as many emails as I can, as many calls as I can, and then trying to get as many conversations as I can. That's like those 3 things I'm focused on each day. So for me, and I don't want to, say this here because I don't remember who I heard it from, so I'm not going to be able to cite it. But I heard that 40% of an SDR's time is figuring out who they should talk to, who they should call. And that's crazy when you think about like how much time a day you're just staring at a screen researching. Yeah, that's not even like figuring out, okay, how I should talk to that person, what kind of messaging should I do?
You're trying to figure out if you even want to talk to them.
It's like, it's crazy. I think about that, and it's like, and then I start thinking about my day, like, yeah, it's pretty accurate. I spend, a few hours a day on, Sales Navigator, on Zoom Info, trying to figure out, okay, here's the companies I'm going after. Here are the companies I think would be good for us to go after. Who are the right people in that conversation, add them to our CRM, and then go from there. And it's a long process. So for me, I found the best way to structure that is to just block time on my calendar every single day. So I've got time with the AEs that I spend time with. Okay, let's strategize about these accounts. Let's find some accounts together. And then I have time in my day where I do it on my own. And I say, okay, here are the people I should talk to in these accounts. And then right after that, I just go and send emails to them and call them. And I found that doing it, having like that structure around it. So having that, organization each day where I'm going to spend time on these accounts today, these accounts tomorrow, that's helped me a lot.
How do you decide on the times you're going to time block? Or is that just pure A/B testing that you've done over the time?
Honestly, it's just whenever, I have time in my day.
Okay.
So it can be in the morning, it can be first thing, it can be the last thing I do, it could be anywhere in between. I just make sure that each day I have a block on my calendar where like I'm prospecting now. I've got,
so you
I'm
do it every
now.
single day in the morning. You don't have it as a series event.
Well, I have it as a series event, but first thing I do when I get in the office is I find the right time that day to do it.
Okay. That's what I was asking. I was asking, like, okay, like 9 to 10 every single day, like I'm making phone calls. Like that's what I was, yeah.
Oh no. So it's just kind of like whenever I have the time in the day, but I will make that time, like structure it out in the morning.
Yeah. No, and that's important. And where did you learn that yourself, or did someone teach you that?
I think it was just kind of, I realized in the beginning when I first started, it was like, man, this is hard to do. I keep running out of time in the day. I'm like, man, this is not enough time. And then I was like, well, maybe I could be a little more efficient about this. Yes. So then I kind of just figured that out and it worked. So I stuck with it.
Yeah. So I think the best way to think about structure, because I was the same way, like for the first 3 months of my SDR role, I kind of was just like ad hoc, like I'll do whatever and I'll just get results. And that was dumb. I really just didn't get the best results I could have gotten until I made a schedule, and then I stayed with it, and then I saw like amazing results. And I still do it now as I work with John. I have a schedule that I stick to. Obviously if something crazy comes up, then obviously I deal with that. But my schedule is my schedule. Yeah. And I treat it as like, when you go to college or you go to high school, like you had a schedule that you had to go to. Like you got to go to class from 9 to 10:30. Like you can't, unless, like you're just like, I don't want to go to class today. Like, you got to go to class from 9 to 10:30, right? Like that's pretty much a requirement. Like lunch was 12 to 1, like recess was like 1 to 2 or whatever. So like you have to treat it as you were in high school, you were in college, and now you're working, but you don't put yourself to a schedule, but you're used to it. So you almost have to do that to yourself. As much as people don't like that structure and being tied to something, you have to really do it because you've been doing it your entire life. So it's hard to just be like, okay, I'm not going to not have a schedule because you've had one your entire process.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I found too. It's, I came from having these really, really structured days. I had no freedom to kind of make any kind of decisions like that. And I found that, it helps.
Yeah, it's a complete game changer when you realize, hey, like these are the things I need to do, and I can focus on these objectives because those are the activities that you can focus on. And so I just say, hey, make it as simple as possible. Like because like a lot of people come in the office and they don't know what they're going to do. That's why they stare at the screen for 3 hours, because they're like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to be prospecting or who I'm reaching out to. And then it's like, you wasted 3 hours looking at a screen and then, you've wasted too much time and now you're in a hole. So yeah, I think structuring your day is part of the fundamentals. It's something that every single rep that I had, I told them they need to create a schedule. Like, I don't care where you write it down. I need to see it, because if you're starting out, like you just don't have enough skill set yet to just be like, I'm just going to do whatever.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think kind of, branching off that a little bit, I think the more time you waste in your day, the lower quality stuff you're going to send out.
Yeah.
So I think if you can find smart ways to schedule your day, you're going to find your stuff is going to be higher quality because you're going to have more time to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% correct. So moving into like the next part of it is, you've obviously worked with other SDRs. You probably have talked to other SDRs. Yeah. What do you feel people are just completely just missing from a fundamental standpoint? Like they know they should be doing it, but they're not.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of, back to a little bit earlier. So I talked to my boss a lot about like the market that we're in and how we can, do it better. Talking about the SDR role specifically, like SDRs don't fight for, against competition. We don't fight against budget. We fight against other SDRs, right?
Right.
So for me, like my boss says, you're not fighting against anybody else. When you send them an email or a call to someone, you're fighting against all the other prospecting stuff that they get. Right. And it's a lot, right? Like everybody gets so much stuff.
It's destroyed.
So for that, I think it's finding ways to not send templates, finding ways to really spend time, make sure it's going after the right people, finding messaging that's going to resonate with people, and then doing as much of it as you can. And I think for a lot of times SDRs have this, idea of, okay, I got to hit my numbers and then I'm going to go on autopilot, right? Yeah. I've said, I made my calls, done my emails. Okay, I'm done. It's probably not good enough.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's whatever. We'll figure it out. Yeah. No, that's really how it is. So from your perspective, what gets you the most excited about your SDR role?
Yeah. So I think, that SDR role is like the hardest one in sales, right? Like you're having those hard conversations with people who don't want to talk to you. I think getting those wins is awesome. that's kind of what gets you through it. Like you get one win a day, like, that's probably enough. Like you're going to go home, you're going to think about that all day. Like, oh, I had that great conversation with this person. They didn't want to talk to me. I got a meeting with them tomorrow. That's awesome. That kind of gets you through the day and you're pumped up for it.
Yeah. And it's a rewarding job in itself, but also it's like, there's not as much accolades and like praise that SDRs really get. So I think it is a hard job mentally, because I always tell people, like, you're coming in every single day knowing you're going to face rejection. And that's like super tough to really think about and deal with, because like most people, you're getting completely just like bombarded at the beginning because you're failing and people just don't want to talk to you. People are hanging up on you and it's tough. But I think the exciting part is knowing that you can gain someone's attention and they respond to you. Because I honestly feel like that's the hardest thing to do nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think another thing too is really rewarding and exciting is that, like, in the SDR role, I feel like, it's usually people's first sales job. So you can see yourself and feel yourself getting better quickly. And you think about old calls you've had and you think about, okay, if I had that call today, I would have killed that call.
Yeah.
I've been able to handle that objection so much better, been able to position this better.
Right.
And I think that's really cool too when you think about how much personal growth you've had. I think that's really rewarding too.
Yeah, no, for sure. So as we kind of wrap this whole thing up and we get to the lasting questions, how will the fundamentals for the SDRs that are listening into this help them in their next role and long-term in their career?
Yeah. So I think, and John talks about this all the time, right? Yeah. You're creating context. So I think we talked about this, kind of throughout the whole podcast so far is what problem am I solving? What are my target people? What are they focused on? And how can I draw that line? And I think no matter what sales role you're in, that's going to be important. Whether you're closing a deal, whether you're going out, first meeting with someone, that's the stuff you can build off of. And that's that skill set you can build as an SDR. Maybe you're going to go in a closing role where you don't have to prospect anymore. Doesn't mean that the stuff you learned as prospecting isn't important anymore. You're still solving problems. You're still positioning your product in a specific way. And I think that stuff carries with you your whole sales career, no matter what you do. Yeah,
it will. And I believe that, even in the world I'm in now, like I'm still doing SDR work and I'm still thinking that way. And I feel like if I hadn't done the SDR role like this, it'd be a lot harder for me to prospect because I wouldn't have the creative mindset and I wouldn't already have my gears turning in that way. Because I think it's like, again, it's just hard to get someone's attention when there's 1,000 other people hitting that person up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. One thing I'm envious of people who get hit up by prospects all the time.
Yeah. I think I was talking to someone the other day, they're an executive, and they said they get 200 to 400 emails a day.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, and they're just solicitations. It's not even like all the other stuff they have to do. So I'm like, wow, all right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's funnier because they get less phone calls. They only get like 5 phone calls a day. So it's like, you gotta think about like all the people who are just like not making phone calls, which is, I mean, that's an advantage in itself because a lot of people are afraid of the phone, but there's a lot of people who still pick up the phone and they're willing to have a conversation because they're not getting as many phone calls because a lot of people will just, all right, I'm just going to do an email only cadence and send some social stuff and then I'm good to go. I don't want to do anything else. That's what people do. So that's why you got to use your unique advantage and understand all fundamentals across the board. It's like if you were playing basketball and if you can only do a layup, then you're irrelevant because now I can just guard you on a layup and you can't shoot. So it's the same thing that comes into sales.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
For sure. So, Ari, thank you so much for hopping on the SDR Chronicles today. Last question I ask every single guest that comes on the show. What is the number one piece of advice that you have for SDRs as they enter into their new role?
That's a good question. I would say that number one piece of advice, learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
Always ask questions, figure that out. Don't be afraid to ask the question that you need to ask so you can understand, one, your product, and two, like the industry itself. That stuff's going to take you so far.
Awesome. Well, Ari, once again, thank you so much for hopping on today. As I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.